Hey, what's going on, my music loving friends, and welcome to the Music Room Live. Tony hanging out here in the music room as always, and I've got a cool one for you today, alright? On December 23rd, I had the extreme privilege of talking to bassist from the band Tesla, Brian Wheat. And growing up, I have to tell you, I had two bands that really defined me. The first band was Aerosmith, the second band was and continues to be Tesla. Brian just put out his autobiography called Son of a Milkman, My Crazy Life with Tesla. And I got to tell you guys, I am not much of a reader. It takes me forever to read a book. It even takes me a long time to listen to a book. I devoured this book in like 3 days. Growing up, like there wasn't a whole lot out there about Tesla, like in Hit Parader, Circus, Metal Edge. I knew some things that had happened just from shows that I had been to, and you hear things. This book connected all the dots. If you're a Tesla fan, it's a must read. But there's so much more to the book than Tesla. Brian discusses, even at the height of Tesla's success, how he was dealing with sickness, how he was dealing with depression, anxiety, and how he deals with that and continues to deal with that. There's a great story, and I talked to Brian about it, where he found himself in a car with the vocalist of Soundgarden, Chris Cornell. Now, obviously, everybody kind of talks about how grunge came in and kind of wiped out that whole melodic scene of the early 90s. So to sit here and see Chris Cornell in a car with Brian Wheat and these two gentlemen sharing their battle with depression and anxiety is a really cool moment. So this in the interview, we talk about that. We lighten things up a little bit. We talk about how Brian rediscovered his love of vinyl records thanks to a guy by the name of Jimmy Page. That's in the interview. We also talk about how Guns N' Roses actually asked Tesla to stop or delay recording of their album Psychotic Supper so they could take their producer for the Use Your Illusion records. Really interesting story. The 15 minutes that I had with Brian flew by. There was so much that I wanted to talk to him about, but I gotta tell you, I hope you guys enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed doing it. And when you're done, make sure you pick up the book. It's Brian Wheat, Son of a Milkman, My Crazy Life with Tesla. And yes, there is a spoiler alert in the title. Brian actually is the son of a milkman. So if that doesn't pique your interest, pick up the book. I know that there were some autographed copies available. You might want to check out Brian's Facebook to see if that's still the case. But in any case, pick up this book. If you love Tesla, this book is for you. Enjoy the interview. And before we get started, if I could ask you guys for a late Christmas present, you see that subscribe button down there? Can you give it a click for me? I really, truly appreciate it. We're working hard at building up our subscriber base and putting out some content that I hope you guys love. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy the interview. Enjoy the book. Thank you, Brian Wheat. Thank you, Tesla. Put this in your pipe and smoke it. Congratulations on the book, man. Son of a Milkman. Congratulations on that. How does it feel to have that out? How does it, you put out so many records and stuff. I know you're used to that. What is it like putting a book out there with your life story?
Yeah, it's a lot like putting out my first album. Because I had never put out an album before. The things that go into putting out, your first album and doing interviews and press and stuff. So this is kind of a new experience for me because, now I'm talking about a book.
Right.
And about, my life story. And, as it equates to my involvement in Tesla as well. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. It was cool to see the video that you shared with everybody about getting the box there with the books and opening it up and seeing it for the first time. That was a really cool thing to see and for you to share with us.
Yeah, a lot of people said, "Hey, man, can't you afford a knife?"
You probably get a few for Christmas.
Yeah, a lot of people. I'll probably get, in the fans mail stuff. I'll probably get a lot of pocket knives or something.
Well, one thing that we should really point out is, there is some Tesla in this book, but it's definitely a lot more than Tesla. When you were writing it, was it a concentrated effort to try to keep a balance, to make it not all about the band and to kind of balance some of that out?
Yeah, I when I decided that I was going to write the book, I didn't want to write the biography of Tesla, the band. I wanted to write a book about my life.
Yeah.
And, my life, obviously, for the last 35 years has involved Tesla. But there's more to my life than just Tesla as well. So I made a conscious effort to talk about my whole life and the things that I go through and things I've experienced and things I've saw and things I've done while I was in, Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I kind of like picked up from the book, and even for like the first thing, like the title "Son of a Milkman," like relationships that you've dealt with, and it's kind of interesting to see some of the relationships in your life have come around full circle. Maybe things kind of had a bad break, or producers, the first manager, ex-wife, band members. Is that something about you that you look to? Those relationships, they repaired over time. Was that something that you kind of gravitate towards doing, like without holding the grudge? Or it's just, I don't know, that really stuck out to me about how those relationships all kind of mended. And even the way with your father, the Milkman, there's no apparent bitterness in things. Is that just your nature in life?
Well, I'm just telling my story,
Yeah.
I think everyone has bitterness in them. And, not everyone runs around happy with everyone and everything that goes on in their life.
Yeah.
Some relationships you mend because they're real relationships, and some relationships you don't because they're not real relationships.
Yeah, but I just thought that was cool, man, to see that. Like, to see, like your first experience of Ross Halfin, like, he puts you in the back of the photo, you put the bass player in the back, and,
Well, he was told to by our manager.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just cool, though, to see.
Really, the underlying thing with all that is that you have all these things, right? All this negativity, or whatever you view as negativity. The moral of the story is to persevere, and lose the weight, and don't be the guy in the back of the photo anymore, and make something out of yourself. And if you get rejected, work harder to where you won't be. That's the underlying thing in the whole book.
Yeah.
Is that I say, look, I've gone through these things, but I managed to always keep moving forward because going through these things made me a more driven person.
Yeah. I think what people are going to realize, too, when they read the book is, there's your typical rock star, get famous, get into drugs, piss it all away, this and that. But your story is so much more involved with all the things that you went through. You were battling, sickness and anxiety and depression before it was, like today, finally some light's being shed on that stuff, and there's some help being put out there. But you were dealing with that stuff before it was really, out there like it is today.
Yeah, no, I started dealing with it, and personally, when I was 14, it was the first time I ever experienced it, but I was dealing with it in 1989, 1990, 1991, very much, while I was on tour and making records and all that stuff. And, people just didn't talk about it back then.
Yeah.
It was there was a stigma, and you just were kind of looked at, if you did, as you were, there's something wrong with you, or you were weak or something. And I think people do need to talk about it because it'll keep people from killing themselves, as we've seen so many people kill themselves from depression and stuff. And I hope that if me coming out and saying, look, I've gone through these things, this is what I go through. If someone's out there reading the book and they go, well, he can talk about it, hopefully they can talk about it, and they don't feel alone, and that's what I hope, people get out of the book. Yeah.
And it's, the thing too that it's not like it's a magical fix, like I'm all better. You share that it's, it's an ongoing thing with you. And I think that's a really good thing to share. It's an ongoing thing for you to share the phone numbers that you shared in the book and your story. I think this is going to be really helpful to a lot of people when they read this, man. So that was really cool that you really dealt as much as you did on that, not just your story, but also to offer the help to other people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the parallels.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, man. What I was going to say, like, everybody talks about like our music that we love so much, melodic rock and roll and things like that, 80s and 90s, and they talk about how grunge came in. And there's the story of you in a car with Chris Cornell and Ross Halflin. And you think about what that guy went through, what Cornell went through, and you guys are sitting in the car together like that. I mean, I don't know. That story gave me chills, and you kind of talk about that early in the book, and then as you go on and tell your story, that story kind of coming back in my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I never met Chris before. It's the only time I ever met him was that time, and I mean, obviously, I was a big fan of Soundgarden. All the guys in Tesla are big fans of Soundgarden, and Chris' voice especially. And he was the first guy I'd ever talked to that was in another band that was talking about how they were suffering from anxiety attacks. I had never talked to anyone else in a band that had ever said anything about that. So that kind of stuck with me and struck me, Whoa, Chris Cornell's got anxiety issues. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm not, he knows what I'm going through. I know what he's going through. It was cool. And, we never spoke again, and, never, but it did stick with me, and I was glad I got to meet him.
Yeah, man. It's so cool because, like I said, so many times people want to separate those two worlds of music, but really, common bond, it's the same, you guys it's all musicians, and you guys are dealing with the same thing, and sometimes labels sometimes divides, but I love that story, and I hope people, when they read that, appreciate that as well. So one of the things I found really interesting too, man, is I thought when we were talking, you might have the news that you moved to Italy or something, because kind of like towards the end of the book, you had moved to Texas from Sacramento, and then at the end you're kind of like, well, I'm in New York now. Just kind of curious, was that because you found the right house or the Winchester, or what led you to New York?
Well, when I got to Texas, I didn't realize that the weather was so bipolar there. And I didn't realize that there was such a problem where I'm at in West Texas with the rattlesnakes. And a rattlesnake killed one of my Jack Russell Terriers, little Darla. And from that point on, my wife didn't really want to stay there, because we have 3 Jack Russells. So we started looking at other places to stay, to live. And when I found, this house in New York, the first thing about it was, do they have rattlesnakes up there? And they're like, no. So then it was this amazing house for this amazing price in this amazing little town that's not too big, it's not too small. So the place I moved in Texas was really small, like 900 people. It was a little too isolated. And this place is much bigger, 30 times bigger. And it's not too big, like, Sacramento had started to getting too big, and the crime was going up, and the homeless, and this, that, and the other. And it was just, Sacramento wasn't the same place it once was. And I lived there my whole life, so I never really thought I'd move, but I did. And then when we got to Texas, it wasn't the right place. It wasn't the right fit. So now we're in upstate New York, up in the Finger Lakes, and we're really enjoying it, I gotta say.
Good, man. Are you going to be building a studio up there, or are you going to be kind of traveling to do your studio work?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at building one up here. Right now I'm just going back and forth to California and working in my studio in California.
Yeah. I know I'm jumping around, man. I just want to make sure I hit a few things before
That's
not
right.
keep you too long.
I jump around in my book all over the place. It's okay.
That leads me to talk about in the studio and stuff. It talks about your other band, Soul Motor. And I know, like, when Tesla broke up the first time and you guys started doing your other projects, I definitely got into Soul Motor. But for somebody that's kind of reading the book and kind of just discovering Soul Motor for the first time, what's the best place for somebody to jump in? What's the are the albums available for people still? What's the best place to jump into Soul Motor and kind of get an idea what that's all about?
Well, I think you can find the third album, which is an album called Wrong Place at the Right Time. And there's a track, the opening track, Down in Mexico is called. I think that's on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. The first two albums aren't in print anymore, so I'm re-recording those. And there's a new album that I just finished that I was going to put out a couple months ago, but then we had this COVID thing, so I didn't put it out because I wanted to go out and play, 2 or 3 weeks full of dates to support the record and kind of bring it around, because I only do one of these records about once every 6-8 years. So, but I think there'll be a lot more activity from Soul Motor, just because I've got quite a collection of stuff now that with these re-records and this new album, and Tommy McClendon, who's the guitar player that was on the first two albums. He wasn't on the third album, and he's not on the fourth album. We'll do some more. So I think, there's soulmotor.com, Soul Motor Facebook, Soul Motor Instagram, and, Brian Wheat Facebook, Brian Wheat Instagram. And as the Soul Motor stuff becomes available, I'll be putting stuff out there that people will be able to see it and go, okay, I know where it's at and what to do here.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, I'm going to keep jumping here. One of the things that I really dig, and I knew this about you, but I didn't quite know everything about it, but I knew you were a big vinyl guy, but I didn't realize how you got into vinyl and how late you got into vinyl. And it was actually from hanging out with Jimmy Page.
Yeah, well, I used to have vinyl when I was a kid. Everyone did, right? We threw it all away because we thought CDs were better, right?
Yeah.
And I've been friends with Jimmy for a few years, since '95. And one day, me and Ross Halfin and Jimmy were out. And every time I'd go to London and go out with those guys, they'd go record shopping. And when they were doing that, I'd just go to the coffee shop or, whatever. And Jimmy would always say to me, the records sound better than CDs. And I'd say, nah, man, nah. So one night he said, hey, do you want to go to this little club called the Troubadour in London? They used to have poetry readings there and bands play and this, that, and the other. And it was me, him, and my wife, Monique, having dinner, just the three of us. So we went around his house to pick him up, and he put on the original Johnny Burnett trio, rock and roll trio, on vinyl of the original Train Kept a Rollin'.
Nice. On
his system there in his living room. And at that moment I went, you know what? He's fucking right. Vinyl does sound better. And at that point I started collecting vinyl again. And, we go out together when I see him, and we go to vinyl, record fairs and this, that, and the other, and collect vinyl. But it was him actually that said, got me back into it. And it was that incident at his house when I heard that record that I went, he's right. And I'll say it, vinyl sounds way better than CDs.
Awesome. And yeah. I know that there's been a couple of things that have been released here in the past couple of years. I'm just curious if you had any hand, and I think I probably know, but they did a reissue of Psychotic Supper, and then for this record store day, they just did a reissue of Great Radio. Did you guys have anything to do with that?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, Universal owns those things.
Yeah, I know.
So they kind of get free reign to do whatever they want under the contracts. What I'd like to do is we did these records called Reel to Reel in 2006.
Yeah.
And I'd like to put them out on vinyl one day.
That'd be killer.
I think they'd be really cool to be out on vinyl because they were all analog records,
Yeah.
They were done on tape machines and, very organic of the mid-'70s style of recording.
Well, anything you put out, man. I know that there was talk too about maybe one day doing a box set or something with Tesla. So there's definitely, whatever comes, man. The more the better, definitely. But I know that we're past 15 here, so I just want to kind of I'll start wrapping up. And obviously, I'm not going to lie. I grew up a Tesla fan. You guys were my band. It was Aerosmith and Tesla, and it was a badge of honor. You guys were the band that it was no gimmick. It was just rock and roll. And then to read in the book about how Guns N' Roses approached you guys to ask you to give up your producers on Psychotic Supper. And then to see how, Nicky Six referred to you guys as the tomato farmers from Sacramento.
But he was joking.
Oh, yeah. But
I got no beef with any of those guys.
Right.
They were, I'm just telling you what happened, I mean, they did. They wanted us to stop our recording and let them use our producers to finish. And I'm like, well, I'd like to help you, Slash, but we're in the middle of fucking making a record, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I not like a bad thing. I thought those were really interesting things from some bigger bands, but I don't know, man. It just even made my Tesla pride go up, thinking like, man, these bands wanted what Tesla had, and Nicky's Nicky. But I just want to say, man, I'm just going to wrap up. I just want to fanboy out, but I love you guys. I appreciate the book, and you connected a lot of dots for me and some confusion that happened there in some shows when you guys come out and played as a 4-piece, and when you guys were going to do a fan club and it got canceled. A lot of dots were connected by reading your book. I appreciate that. I appreciate what you guys have done, what you continue to do. And I appreciate you sharing your story about anxiety and depression with everybody, man, and just what you put out here in the book, man. I just thank you for everything. Thank you for the past 3 decades, man.
You're welcome, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for liking the band and being a supporter. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, we look forward to more from Tesla, more from Soul Motor. But I'm going to let you go, man, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope you have a good holiday, good Christmas, and as good as you can during these crazy times.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, pal. You take care.
All right, bud. Take care, Brian.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.